It is 7 a.m. I'll call the special school board meeting in the Oaks Public School District to order on Monday, January 18th at 7 a.m. We are in the OPS conference room and meeting via Zoom. We'll start by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item on our agenda is the consideration of the teacher grievance. For this, we would be going into executive session for attorney consultation and discussion. Therefore, I'll require a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to NDCC 4404-19(1) and section 1.
I'll make a motion.
Rosendahl moves to enter into executive session. Is there a second?
Second.
Schmitz seconds. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries, and we enter into executive session at 7:01 a.m. I'm getting so good at this. To end our executive session,
I'll make a motion.
Rosendahl moves to end our executive session. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Nagel seconds. Is there any discussion? Everybody ready to end? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries. We're ending our executive session at 7:42 a.m. We are now back into open session of our board meeting, Oaks Public School Board, Monday, January 18th. It is 7:42 a.m. The next item on the agenda is the Porter School District land transfer request. You received some documents by email, had an opportunity to review them. Anybody have any comments? April, Craig, anybody know any more about this than what we got?
I don't know anymore, but in talking to Amy, she said that's not a problem, Craig, for you to sign it. I just didn't feel comfortable signing without you as the board seeing it and knowing. My assumption is that that's where the school was physically located back in the early 1900s or late 1800s.
So
We've had these before.
yeah, yes. So my impression is that there was a 1 acre parcel that was given to the school district. And if there was ever not to be a school there again, it needed to be deeded back to the landowners of the quarter section or whatever it was contiguous to. And evidently that part was not done. And so we, Oaks Public School, is the successor technical owner of that property, which despite that it was owned, or it was the Porter School District, it is not in Porter Township, it's in Maple Township. That's what I determined. But so somewhere back in 1903, the property was not properly deeded back to the owners, and not knowing how many times, if ever, it was the property was transferred between then and now, it's getting cleaned up now. So technically or legally, this 1 acre belongs to Oaks Public School District, but we've never used it, never paid taxes on it, nothing, and it's time to give it back to who it was supposed to be. Should we have a motion?
You don't need a motion, as long as you are okay with it. I'll sign it and send it back today.
Without objection, we will authorize Dr. Steinhoff and April to take care of that on behalf of the district. So one more item, Garrett Swanson's request. We talked about this at our last board meeting. We asked Mr. Beta to come up with some plans. He sent those to me, I think, the same day, and then I didn't realize that, I didn't know whether you had all gotten them, and then I was trying to forward them to you, and last night I did forward them to you finally. So there were 4 proposals that Mr. Beta came up with. One involved the board changing our graduation requirements. Number 2 was Garrett completing all of his classes online except for POD, which he would continue to take in person. Plan 3 was that Garrett would complete all classes online and receive a diploma through the North Dakota Center for Distance Ed. And Plan 4 was no change, he stays here. I think that Garrett is with us. I will, anyone can ask him a question if they like. I believe that last Thursday or Friday, Thursday maybe, Garrett and Mr. Beta met, and Garrett preferred his option 2, in which he would take the POD class, but all other, oh, and he would also stay in his online marketing, which is an OHS SRCTC class, as well as he had arranged with Mrs. Kemmer to complete a work-based learning credit, which fits in with his work at Casey's. So this means, if I'm not mistaken, that he needs to take an English credit through the Center for Distance Ed and 2 additional classes. And I did ask Mr. Beta to review his Garrett's graduation requirements, and he has done that. So, any questions?
I guess I'd like to add, are you comfortable with these plans, or what's your?
It needs your guys' approval because it's against or opposite of what the restart plan says. You're all in or you're all out. And the key difference is the POD requirement for seniors, which makes a difference. That's why it requires your approval. He'll be taking 3 classes that he's already taking right now. He'll have to take English 12, which is the required. He does need POD and English 12 for graduation. Other classes he has are basically just electives. I told Sonia I don't have an answer as far as where he is on a coordinated plan of study or for the North Dakota State Scholarship, where he is in that. I'll do this record to see where he's all in line with that. So he moved to online learning, and I can't say that will qualify or won't. I don't check into that. It's not my job for them for scholarship stuff. It's to get them to graduate. But he will be in line with everything. I sat down with him. He said plan 2. I said, okay, well, here's what it looks like. We're basically going to have to sit down, pick 2 classes. They don't have to be the same classes he's taking here. So he, like right now, would be physics, world ag. He's taking a couple classes here that he wouldn't have to take online through distance ed. He can choose whatever 2 he'd want, because our offerings here in-house are contingent upon both his other class he picks for schedule and just the amount of electives we have. So now that when we go to distance ed, he has a wide range of electives he can choose from. If that makes sense.
We're not changing precedent. If somebody else wants to do this, they'll still have to petition the board, evaluate.
This will be the first time this has come up with an online component. We've had other cases where kids have taken classes by arrangement. If remember, we have a student that was tutored for most of the day, taking online classes to make up credits, things like that. But for a student to do a hybrid where they're here, taking classes through OHS or the center, and also completing their education online, that has not happened until this year with the COVID restart plan.
So that's interesting, because you said that the reason we need to act on this, maybe, but what's happening here is what we would be approving is different from what's in our restart plan. If we didn't have a restart plan,
This will never come up. Because no kid can, you've never had the precedence of kids saying, well, I want to still be in OHS, and I want to pick this, this, and this, and I also want to take classes online. You never have that. And if they did, it was all done here in house. They didn't go home to complete their education. So that's the difference here. So I wouldn't say that, I shouldn't just say you're doing something opposite. It's almost like an exemption or a unique circumstance, I guess, because of the POD requirement, which we can't. If POD was offered through distance ed, it wouldn't be a problem. It'd be the same as everybody else. But it's the senior POD piece is
And it's because of COVID that he's even allowed to be considered for it, but it's not a COVID reason.
How does it affect as a student reimbursement from the state?
We would still get,
Student.
yeah, we'd still get reimbursement because we're required to have a virtual option for this year because of the restart plan. would still have that. And then, there was also the question of if he takes online classes, who pays for them? I can tell you this, that I saw legal guidance on the language that we have in the restart plan that states if a student does not pass the online virtual class, can we charge them? And our attorney said, absolutely not. That would be against free and appropriate public education. You cannot charge them for free and appropriate public education, is what I was told.
But that was a different question.
That was a different question, yep, but that was for a question regarding whether a student failed one of our virtual classes, could we hold them to pay for that? And the attorney said, absolutely not.
But what our question today is, who will pay for these? Because it's not that classes aren't available here, it's classes are available that they do not take necessarily. They want to take these classes instead. We should be, it's put to us now, right? So who should pay for that?
We know approximate cost too, I have no idea.
If Garrett applies himself, it's $179 a class. If we run it through the school, it'll be about $149.
Because we are a member of North Dakota Small Organized Schools, which organization has negotiated at a discount for North Dakota Center for Distance Ed classes. There is one other consideration. Our requirements this year, or well, maybe it started this year or last year, we required that students are enrolled in 6 classes. Okay, so Garrett's going to be enrolled in POD, his online marketing, and the World Ag. Those are the 3 classes that he would be enrolled in that are here.
Cooperative work.
Cooperative work experience. Sorry, I said the wrong one. And we're requiring him to take 6 classes. He may not need those 3 additional classes for to meet graduation requirements. We could also say, okay, you have to take 5. We could, I'm not promoting this, but I'm saying we could say that he doesn't need to take 6. Maybe he only needs to take 5. So he has 3 at Oaks Public Schools, and he has 2 additional through Center for Distance Ed, which would, if that would allow him to meet his graduation requirements.
I would be strongly opposed to that. We ran into that issue before we allowed kids to just get the classes, the credits needed, and the pushback we got from parents. Everybody was, we're not pushing our kids for more classes. They have too much extra time. So I would be strongly opposed to lowering the bar for unrequired classes the kids have to take. That's just my personal opinion. I would not like to see that. I'd also be cautious. And what I put in here for, you guys have to decide who pays for it. Dr. Snod's right though, you have to provide a free and appropriate education. The whole mix of this is just, it's different what the plan says, because it was basically either are all in or you're all here as far as your classes. So if I even can make a recommendation, I guess if you guys are going to go this route and approve it, I would assume that you guys would pay for it like you've done the other kids that have gotten distance learning. The only difference here is that you would have to take some classes here in-house, which is different than what other kids have as juniors, sophomores, freshmen, and so on, because of the POD requirement. But the other thing that is different is we're still allowing them to stay in marketing, we're still allowing them to do cooperative work, which is different than what we presented here. I wouldn't go down the road of having it for that. It's not dual credit.
So using the school, if he's taking 3 classes, you're talking $149 per class, $447.
3 or 2?
3.
Oh, that was 2.
Well, if we're going to require him to take 6,
Okay.
he's taking POD here, he's taking marketing online, and he's taking cooperative work experience, which is a class he's enrolled in here, but working at Casey's and being supervised by Mrs. Kemmer at the center. Then he'd need 3 additional classes, which he would not take here.
Basically, the only one he would physically attend would be POD. Online marketing, he doesn't have to be in person. Cooperative work is more paperwork and logging and things like that. That's not something you actually have to go to the class a certain time, certain date. That's more fluid. So it would only be POD he would attend in-house. The rest would basically be by arrangement or online, I guess.
Okay, we do have Garrett here. Does anyone have a question for Garrett or any questions for Garrett? I would like everyone to know I have visited personally with Garrett, and I also visited with his mother because she was right there, and I wanted to know, you know, does she support this effort? And she assured me that she does, and that she told Garrett that she would be with him, you know, she would help him in any way, but she hasn't stepped in and push this. She's allowing him to do it on his own. And my interaction with Garrett has been all respectful, and he's acted with maturity. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Beta, Dr. Steinhoff, when he's come to you, he's been organized, respectful.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I've had great conversations with Garrett. He's followed the chain of command. He's followed up, emailed really well, and did a great meeting the other day. So yeah, it's been a seamless chain of command, I guess, if that's what I'm calling it. It's been very good.
All right. Any questions for Garrett? Do you have a brief comment, Garrett, that you would like to say?
I would just input that if it does go through or is approved, I have kind of scoured through the Center for Distance Education site, and I have picked out some select courses to take in the event that this gets approved, so that way we don't have to waste so much time picking and choosing what classes I wanted to take. So I already have those 3 picked out, or 2 if need be, but I already have those picked out and ready to go.
Well, it sounds like it will be 3. Could you share with us what classes you think you would take?
Yes, let me share my screen with you guys here. Oh, never mind. I will let you know. Okay, so one of them, obviously, of course, is the 2nd semester of English to graduate. And then I also have one called Personal Management Independent Living, which basically kind of goes through living on your own and understanding things that are out in the real world and stuff like that. There's a health and personal wellness class that's about like goal setting, like your overall well-being and understanding like mental health and everything that goes with that. And then the 3rd one is called Social Media, Our Connected World. And that kind of goes through and ties in like social media into like real world application and how you can kind of coexist with those 2 and kind of be more informed when you're using social media and how to use it properly.
Okay. In the event that the board approves your request, Garrett, may I make a request of you, and that you would come back and report to us perhaps at maybe at our May meeting before, and let us know that you have completed or will complete all of these requirements on time for graduation, and how your experience has been with those classes with the Center for Distance Education, as well as your hybrid model of taking POD only and your other 2 classes.
Yes, I would be more than happy to do that. And if need be too, we could also do it like bi-monthly. If Mr. Beta and Mr. Steinhoff would like an update or something like that, I can also do that like monthly as well.
Okay, you'll work that out with them. Mr. Beta, do you have a question or comment?
Just one thing we need to think about, if we're going to keep it the same too, is so when you're taking on like a class, obviously you're going to get to a quiz or a test, and that needs to have a proctor. What we've done for the 3 students that have chose distance learning only is those have been given to the parents, and the parents then give the password and kids then complete the test. So I assume that we're going to do the same thing for Garrett then, is that we would just give the password to his mom, and his mom, when available, would give Garrett her input it in, and then he would complete his coursework, just in case that question comes up.
Did you hear that, Garrett?
Yes.
Okay, or you've discussed with him what your procedures with Mr. Beta, what your procedures will be for test taking with your Center for Distance Education classes. Okay, any questions? Questions? If not, is there a motion to approve, deny, change, any motion with regard to Garrett's request?
If you're gonna do a motion, I would say that it would speak something to the tune of you were allowing him to do virtual only as our restart plan states. However, you're waiving that piece that they all have to be virtual versus on-site, that would be the motion. It would simply be a waiver of what's in the restart plan.
So I'm seeking a motion, assuming that you're interested in approving. So you don't make this motion if you want to deny, but the motion would be to waive the section of our restart plan, which requires 100% in-person or 100% distance learning, and approve the plan, which Mr. Beta and Garrett have worked out for his completing his OHS requirements.
Was plan number 2 in the,
Plan number 2, complete all classes online except POD. And attend classes at Oaks High School for POD only. But he would be enrolled in 3 Oaks Public Schools classes: POD in person, marketing online, co-op work experience through the SRCTC, and 3 distance learning classes through the Center for Distance Education.
make the motion for that plan based on the fact that we have the support of our administration.
Bill Schmitz moves to waive the terms of our restart plan to allow Garrett Swanson to complete his Oaks Public Schools graduation requirements under the plan we've discussed. Is that good, April? Craig? Okay.
That makes sense.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Or seconds? Any discussion? Any discussion? I would just say again that I think Garrett has handled this with maturity, and he has good reasons, and this is an exception. It's not something that I think we want to advertise that we're just opening the door to anyone and everyone. I do know that we do have an early graduation policy, which this doesn't apply, but there are some parallels in this policy. I know that there has not been a request for early graduation in my time on the board, but I am aware of them in other districts not far from us. And those are, I think, typically a parent and a student are going to start working on that early in their junior year to come to the board and make that request. Here we have a second semester senior who's in good academic standing, I presume, and has been in extracurriculars and is seemingly ready to move on to the workforce, which is what we want, right? So I can support this motion, and yet I wouldn't support it for every single person that would make the request. Any other discussion or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries, and the plan is approved. Thank you, Garrett, for acting responsibly in this. I encourage you, as you've already done, to get moving on those CDE classes and get with Mr. Beta and make the adjustments that are needed to get you to graduate with the OHS class of 21.
Yep. And I plan to, depending on my schedule today, hopefully meet with Mr. Beta again. And just in general, thank you guys, of course, for hearing out my request and taking the time to research it and be involved. So I thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Good luck. All right, thank you, board members. That's the end of our agenda. Thank you for the time and diligence that you put into all these matters, and I will declare this meeting adjourned at 8:05 a.m.